Welcome back to my channel. Have you ever heard the expression fail to plan, plan to fail? Well, I don't know about you, but I love making plans. Do you like making plans? They give me a sense of purpose. And if I'm completely honest, a feeling of control in a chaotic world. I can sit down with my notebook, map out a month, decide what I'm going to work on, organize my content, figure out what I'm going to eat for the week, create lists, a beautiful little schedule, color coordinated and everything. And then comes the inconvenient part, actually following the plan. Recently, I started wondering, why do I even take the time to map out this extravagant plan, this really well thought out plan, and then not even follow it? Where is this resistance even coming from? Because we all need plans, especially when running a business. You need a content plan. You need to plan what you want to accomplish for the week. You need to plan how you're going to show up in your days. I'm not sure why or how, but showing up for my plan, resistance just comes up. Like I've created my own tiny prison with my Google Calendar. And I wanted to understand why. Because I realized I had a whole collection of beliefs about planning that I never really even examined. Plans can fail, right? Plans might not even be the right plan. Circumstances change. I crave flexibility. That's why I started my own business in the first place. I need the freedom. And honestly, sometimes plans feel completely unnecessary because life is going to do what life is going to do. And underneath all of these beliefs was something even more interesting. Maybe I don't really trust the plan. And this is probably old, like an old belief from my childhood. We don't need to get into that today. But I believe that's where it stems from. But now it's my time to deal with it, right? So today I want to talk about what happens when you crave structure, when you need structure in your business to be successful, and stay on track with your goals, but then resist it at the same time. And the secret is not more discipline, I promise. So if you're anything like me, I think this is where the resistance begins. Imagine you sit down on a Sunday and you decide what your week is going to look like. And then Monday and Tuesday, you follow the plan. And then let's say Wednesday arrives. But Wednesday, you don't necessarily agree with Sunday you. Maybe something changed. Maybe you're just tired. Maybe a new opportunity came up, or your inbox is suddenly flooded with admin requests. Maybe you suddenly have a much better idea, or maybe you simply do not want to do the thing you enthusiastically assigned yourself 3 days ago. Now the plan feels less like support and more like a demand. And I think for some of us, we unconsciously define planning this way. A plan means I am deciding in advance exactly what I have to do, and then I have to obey it. If that's your definition of planning, of course you're going to resist it, especially if you value independence, creativity, flexibility, intuition, or freedom. But here's the shift that hit me. A plan is not a prediction. It's a decision made in advance. That's a very different thing. When I put something on my calendar for next Thursday, I'm not claiming to know exactly what next Thursday will require. Based on what I know right now, in this moment, this is the best decision I can make. And unless something important changes, I don't need to make that decision again. And that matters. Because without a plan, you don't actually eliminate structure. You replace structure with constant decision making. And this is really the key to why not planning can have such a draining effect on you. There's a kind of freedom that comes from saying, I'll decide later. I'll figure out what I feel like eating when I'm hungry. I'll figure out what I want to work on when I sit down. I'll decide what I want to post when it's time to post. I'll see how the week goes and then go from there. And in the moment, that can feel wonderfully flexible and like you have all the freedom in the world. Nothing is locked in. All your options are still available to you, but there is a cost because now you have to keep deciding, what should I work on? What should I post? Should I send the email? Should I record a podcast? Should I focus on Instagram? Should I do the outreach? Maybe I should change my offer. And suddenly, what looked like freedom becomes a whole lot of mental clutter. You are now negotiating with yourself all day long. So I've been thinking about freedom differently. Maybe freedom isn't always having every option available to me. Maybe freedom is not having to make every decision over and over again. Maybe what freedom really is not having to make every decision over and over again. Maybe structure can actually create freedom. You sit down Monday morning and know the 3 things that matter most in your week. You wake up on recording day and you already know what you're going to be talking about and you have your script ready to go. You don't have to reinvent your business every single morning. That feels like freedom too. And I guarantee it's going to free up a lot more time and energy while moving you closer to your goals. So then a belief pops up. What if this isn't the right plan? And it sounds reasonable, right? Except there's a problem. If you need to know that a plan is right before you commit to it, you're going to spend a lot of your life standing at the starting line. Most plans cannot prove themselves before you execute them, especially in business. Let's say for the next month, you're going to create content around one central problem that your clients are experiencing. You plan out each week, your posting schedule, your hooks, the format. Is it guaranteed to be a perfect content strategy? No. Can you come up with a better idea halfway through the month? Absolutely. But here's what happens if every new idea automatically replaces the current plan. You never actually give anything enough time to produce data, the information that will help you create a better plan. Let me repeat that because it bears repeating. Information is what allows you to improve your strategy. This is why sticking with an imperfect plan can sometimes be more valuable than constantly searching for the perfect one. You need data. You need repetition. You need enough consistency to see what happens. You need to know, did people respond? Did they click? Did they inquire? Did they buy? Did the message actually do what it needed to do and resonate with your audience? And you can't learn very much from a strategy you abandon every 4 days. So maybe the belief isn't, I need to trust the plan. Maybe it's, I need to trust myself. I can make a reasonable decision. I can work the plan. I can observe what happens. And if the evidence tells me to change course, I can change course. That's a much sturdier kind of trust. You're not putting blind faith in a spreadsheet. You're trusting your ability to make an informed pivot when needed. I think this distinction is especially important because when some of us here stick to a plan, we imagine rigidity. Do exactly what you said you were going to do, regardless of what happens. And I just don't think that's wise. I think there are 3 things you can do with a plan. You can follow it, you can adapt it, or you can replace it. You follow it when nothing meaningful has changed. You adapt it when circumstances change, but the objective is still sound. And you replace it when new information tells you the strategy itself is no longer right. But maybe you're bumping into another category, the one where you just don't feel like doing it. And that's where this gets uncomfortable because feelings matter, energy matters, circumstances matter. But your feelings do not automatically deserve veto power over every decision your past self made. If I decide that publishing consistently matters to me, and then Thursday comes around and I feel awkward, uninspired, maybe a little self-conscious, or just plain bored, that doesn't necessarily mean the plan is wrong. It may simply mean I'm experiencing resistance. And resistance and misalignment are not the same thing. This distinction alone can change a lot in how you actually look at this. Another thing that makes planning feel suffocating is when we act like everything we decide on is set in stone. What if instead of saying, this is my new content strategy, you say, this is the strategy I'm running this month? Feels different, right? It has an expiration date. At the end of the month, you get to review it. What worked, what didn't work, and what felt unnecessarily difficult, what produced results, what should you keep, what should you change. Now the plan becomes an experiment. You're not married to it. You're running it long enough to learn something about it. I think this is particularly useful for someone who sees the value of consistency but craves the flexibility. You don't need a rigid system you have to follow forever. You just need structure that lasts long enough to give you the data you need to make informed decisions on your next move. So, this is perhaps the belief I needed most. The plan serves me. I do not serve the plan. For example, the purpose of planning my week is not to cram every available hour with tasks. It's to make sure the important things actually have somewhere to live. The purpose of creating a content plan is not to remove every ounce of spontaneity from my work. It's to stop waking up every week wondering, what on earth am I supposed to talk about? The structure is there to support what matters, not to dominate it. That completely changes the relationship because now the plan isn't my boss, it's a tool. And tools can be changed, tools can be refined, tools can be retired when they're no longer useful. But refusing to use a tool because it isn't perfect doesn't make you freer. Sometimes it just makes the work harder. So here's the reframe I'm working with. Plans are not promises that the future will cooperate. They are decisions that reduce unnecessary decisions, which makes my efficiency brain very, very happy. I make the best plan I can with what I know. I follow it long enough to learn from it, and I give myself permission to adjust when reality gives me a meaningful reason to. Not every uncomfortable feeling, not every shiny new idea, an actual meaningful reason to pivot. And I think that may be the sweet spot that we're all searching for. Structure without rigidity, commitment without imprisonment, consistency without losing your ability to respond to what is actually happening in front of you. So if you've been resisting planning because part of you thinks structure is going to take your freedom away, I want you to consider another possibility. Maybe the right kind of structure gives some of your freedom back to you. Maybe knowing what you're working on allows you to be more present while you're doing it. Maybe mapping your month means you get to stop waking up wondering whether you're doing enough in your business. Maybe planning your content lets you actually enjoy creating it again. You're not trapped by the plan, you're supported by it. You don't need the perfect plan. You just need a plan you can actually work. You learn from it, and then you make adjustments from there. Because the goal isn't to predict the future perfectly. None of us can do that. The goal is to stop renegotiating every important decision with yourself every single day. And maybe that's the real freedom we've all been looking for. So here's a suggestion you can try this week. Choose one area where you've been relying on yourself to decide in the moment. Maybe it's your content. Maybe it's how you show up on your discovery calls. Maybe it's how you use the first hour of your workday. Create a simple plan for that one area and decide how long you're willing to test it before evaluating it. Not forever, not perfectly, just long enough to learn something. And when resistance comes up, instead of immediately changing the plan, pause and ask yourself, has something meaningful changed? Or am I simply uncomfortable following through on the decision I already made? Because those are not the same thing. You do not need to become more rigid. You do not need to control every hour of your life. You just need enough structure to protect what matters. The plan serves you. You do not serve the plan. And if you're realizing that the real challenge in your business is not a lack of ideas, but knowing which ideas deserve your time and turning them into a plan that you can actually follow, that is the exact kind of work I help coaches, service providers, and online experts do. You can learn more at my website, jessicadowningcoaching.com. If you found this helpful, please hit the subscribe button. Leave me a comment below. What have you been resisting in your own business? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.